Welcome to the Kids Stay in the Podcast, where movies shared serve each other differently. With your hosts,
Isaac Altman
and
CADEN Miller,
along with
Ashley Miller,
and me, Mark A. Altman. And this week, holy Cape Crusaders, it's Batman week. And wow, I know that's going to be exciting because this is a show where Gen Z goes at it with Gen X, and I'm sure we have very different perspective on the history of the Cape Crusader, the Dark Knight. So, guys, are you big Batman fans?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty big fan.
Well, Isaac, what was your gateway into Batman? Was it the comics? Was it A to Z books? Was it the TV show? What was your entry into Batman?
Well, I always knew that Batman existed, but my first real step into that world was with the Adam West 60s show with Burt Ward and Cesar Romero and of course Adam West. And, you know, just getting into that, watching that every day, especially the episodes with Green Hornet or King Tut or Egghead. And that was just, I think, an overall good way to go into that Batman universe.
Isaac, you don't need to hold the microphone. You look like the guy, the humanity, the Hindenburg, the people. It's like,
and then barfing into the mic, which he did, which is great. If you listen to the actual recording.
Old-timey radio when they were doing the Batman serials and stuff. Yeah, they had to hold the mic up to their... But now we live with this great technology. You can just leave it on your desk.
About 6 inches from your mic, talk straight at it. It'll just go right over.
Totally.
Let's just say I was doing the parody of the serials.
Gotcha. Okay, the old radio dramas.
That's what we'll go with.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And what about you, Caden? What was your... how did you discover the Cape Crusader?
I'm not really sure, honestly. I think my earliest memory of anything Batman related was playing with my Batman and Superman toys, where I always had Superman win because I was more of a Superman kid at the time.
Really? Because I think Isaac's more of a Batman guy than a Superman guy, right? So you kind of have what is it? The cafe, the Villains Cafe going there.
I mean, yeah. Sure.
We'll go with that one.
Okay.
I've leaned more towards Superman over the years, but we'll go with that for the sake of it.
I'm leaning more towards Batman, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh, that's funny.
So the versus still works.
Crisscross.
It still works. At the end of the episode, we'll fight to the death.
Yeah, exactly. Little Strangers on the Train reference. So, which one day when we do Hitchcock Week, you guys will have to watch that. We'll make sure that you guys see that. Obviously, Batman has had a big place in the movies for many, many years. Obviously, the character was introduced in Detective Comics, but for a lot of people, he got his start in movies. People think, the first time Batman came to the screen was in 1966 with Batman, but that's not correct, is it, Isaac?
No, it was not. Batman's first theatrical release was a 1940s serial starring Lewis Wilson as the Caped Crusader that released in 1943. Now, there wasn't really any Batman villains like the Joker. I think it was just an evil cab driver, or that might have been the second.
Well, he fought the Japanese helping the FBI. It wasn't quite, in the spirit of the Batman we know and love. I don't know how much detecting he did. I don't know how much Dark Knighting he did. Ashley, maybe you can elaborate.
He didn't do any, but he did live in a really nice colonial, out somewhere, and it looked like Sherman Oaks, I think. So.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the second serial that it looked more like a nice little house in Sherman Oaks. And
Lewis Wilson looked like he never missed a meal.
Oh, yeah, he definitely didn't miss a meal. It was like, like that podcast that Kevin Smith used to have, like Fat Man on Batman. Fat Man was Batman. Yeah.
Yeah. And Robin was like 80.
Yeah, he really was. But you know what? It ages you working with Batman.
Yeah.
Well, those serials gave us the Batcave. So
look, I know that, I discovered Batman when I get home from school as a kid. I would watch Batman on Channel 11 in New York, the Adam West Batman. I loved it. I still love it today. I was thrilled when the beautiful Blu-ray set came out. How do you guys feel about, that great Batman movie, Batman 66, and the TV series? Is that Batman to you? A lot of people who are true believers, sorry, Stan, don't really wrong franchise, but don't really love that Batman because they feel it makes fun of it. I loved it. What about you, Isaac?
Well, I very much love the Adam West series. It's different and it's campy, but I don't necessarily consider it making fun of Batman because that's really what it was at the time during the 50s and early 60s with the Comics Code Authority censoring a lot of darkness and violence that was in comics. So it was explaining the time. And yeah, it kind of got a little too silly at times, but that was the joy of it. And that's what made it fun.
But you love that mustache, that Cesar Romero mustache, right?
Of
What's
course.
that to love?
Of course.
Okay.
It's the Joker.
And what about you, Caden? Were you a fan of the TV series or Batman 66 at all? Or
I've honestly never watched them, but I have done some research into them, and I honestly, I don't mind the campy style. I honestly think, if it's done right, it can definitely work with pretty much any character, honestly.
No, this is interesting. So you're not familiar with it. So, if I said, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb, would you know what that meant?
You're talking about Bob Iger.
Little Disney reference there from Ashley.
Sorry.
So you would visit, there's this amazing scene in Batman 66, which you're really going to have to see, where Batman finds a bomb when he's looking for the villains. And he doesn't want to, he's trying to get rid of it. But everywhere he goes, there's something where he can't throw it because he can hurt an innocent thing. And it gets to the point where he's about to throw it in the water, but then he sees a bunch of ducks and he can't throw it. And then finally he finds it just as it's about to explode. He throws it into the water and it explodes. But, and then he says famously, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. And, of course, this is when the Penguin steals a submarine and is going to turn the head of all the countries in the UN, which was called the United World Organization, into powder, right?
UW.
The what?
The UW.
The UW. Thank you. So anyway, okay. Well, look, that's one interpretation of Batman. It's one that I have a lot of love for. Isaac and I, when Isaac was much younger, we used to watch it all the time. We loved it. I think it's a great way for kids to get an introduction to the character who aren't necessarily reading the comic books. For me, it was also, I'm sure it was for you too, Super Friends, Ashley, the Super Friends cartoon.
Super Friends, definitely. I mean, just to kind of hit the Batman 66 of it all, when I was a kid at first, I really liked it. And I liked the main title sequence on Batman 66. And I thought I liked that movie. And the series until I learned Batman's origin story. And then I realized that it was bullcrap and not Batman, and I hated it. I mean, I get why you guys dig it, but I'm like, every time somebody says Caped Crusader, a little part of me dies inside. I think that's why I never exposed Caden to it, quite unfairly, because usually my philosophy is I don't try to push my feelings about things onto him. I let them kind of find their own stuff. But but look, I mean, I don't, for what it is, it's good, but as Batman, it didn't work for me. But by the same token, Super Friends, I also thought was a whole different thing when I was a little kid. Like when we were little kids.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
There's something about that just felt like, okay, well, this is like a superhero show, and that's great. And the reality is it's ridiculous. But there were a couple of great animated Batman series that existed in the 70s, long before we get to something else that I'm sure will come up. I was always, there was one version of it where Adam West was the voice of Batman, and I thought that was great because he was the live action Batman, even though it wasn't Batman. Not cool Batman at all. But still,
he met Scooby-Doo.
He did meet Scooby-Doo, and who doesn't want to meet Scooby-Doo?
Everyone,
except maybe Mindy Kaling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, now I feel your father has done you an injustice because every young boy should have the opportunity to see Julie Newmar as Catwoman.
That's so.
I think that sadly you missed out on that, but it's not too late to make it up to.
This is a family podcast.
It's a family podcast.
Is it though? I mean, literally it is, but
it's a family affair. Okay, I'm not going to sing because I want to keep all our listeners.
I would be remiss if I didn't point out something that I'm sure we can explore at some later date. But randomly today, I came across an outline for a feature film written by William Dozier called Batman Meets Godzilla, which was a feature film that he was proposing where it's the sequel to Batman 66, like where it's Batman literally goes to Japan and meets Godzilla.
Well, that would be perfect because you got the Batman for Isaac and the superhero, and then you got the kaiju for Caden. It's the perfect film for our kids.
It totally is. Unfortunately, obviously it never got made, but my God, the possibilities.
Yeah, well, it's not too late. It's not too late. Legendary should be making it in a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
Batman's always had a long history of canceled movies. Of course, there's the Tom Mankiewicz Batman movie, Batman Year One by Darren Aronofsky, I think.
Darren Aronofsky, yeah.
Having read Darren Aronofsky's Wolverine script, I'm not sure that we didn't dodge a bullet with that, but
his Year One was an interesting script. It was certainly interesting.
Huh. Interesting. I feel like suddenly we've taken a turn into best movies never made.
Or movies that we're glad didn't. But yeah.
Movies we're glad weren't made. That's right.
Yeah. There's a podcast for you. Suck on that, Josh Miller. Sorry.
Now, neither of you guys, obviously Superman debuts in 1978 and big budget superhero movies are in a big way. It's amazing that it takes another 10 years for Batman to reach the screen in 1989's Batman, directed by Tim Burton.
I'd like you to handle this operation personally. Me?
Nice outfit.
Hold on a second. I can't make it then either. I've got a very important meeting today.
Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Don't kill me, man! What are you? Batman.
Lieutenant, is there a 6-foot bat in Gotham City?
Alfred, let's go shopping.
Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker.
I feel a little drunk. And you're not anything.
Hey, one drink and I'm flying.
Winged freak terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me.
You guys weren't alive, but you can't imagine the pomp and circumstance and how much Batman was a pop culture phenomenon. It was the Taylor Swift of its time.
It was.
Now that's a good metaphor.
Yeah, it was pretty staggering. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing the bat symbol, and it's funny. It was the first casting. Like now everybody goes on Twitter or X or Instagram, or YouTube and say, "Oh, how could they cast so and so as Mr. Fantastic?" or "How could they cast this?" But that was the first time I remember people freaking out when Michael Keaton got cast as Batman. You remember that, Ash?
Oh God, yes. I remember when that hit. Like just all of my friends were just horrified that it was going to be Mr. Mom. But I have to tell you, I was kind of intrigued by the choice because, reading between the lines, what Tim Burton always said was he wanted to cast somebody that you believe was crazy enough to dress up as a bat. And I thought, you know what? Michael Keaton maybe could. Like, I actually, even though I would never watch it under any other circumstances, I remember renting Clean and Sober. Right, just to see what he was like in a dramatic role. I was like, oh yeah, he could get nuts.
I did the same thing. Clean Sober was this movie that Michael Keaton did his first, but we knew him. He did Mr. Mom and he did Night,
Gung Ho and Night Shift.
And Night Shift. And so we knew him as this, really wild comedian, and so Clean Sober was like the first serious thing. And you said, oh, I could see him playing Batman. And of course he did in 2 movies. And, he's pretty,
3.
Oh yeah, I guess if you count The Flash, which I don't. He's and Batgirl never got released, so we don't count that either. So he's pretty great in those 2. Caden, tell us about the Tim Burton era of Batman. Are you a fan?
Yeah, Batman and Batman Returns were I believe they were my first 2 Batman films. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think Batman Returns is. I'm not saying it's the best Batman film, but it's my favorite.
I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend.
From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed.
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
We do.
While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're a catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction.
My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of Gotham!
You missed. Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
And it's probably the one I've watched the most.
Right.
And I just find those films so entertaining, but also like really good at the same time. Like they have I like the tone. I feel like it has a nice, it's a nice mix of like action and but also being serious at the same time.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because I know, Ashley, that's your favorite Batman film, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, look, here's a great thing about Batman. Batman is open to many different interpretations, and Tim Burton did something, very different that frankly changed superhero films pretty much forever, and made, the current glut of Marvel films, frankly, possible. It made Spider possible. It made X-Men possible. It just, the list goes on and on, simply because he broke out of the mold that Richard Donner had set with Superman. And whether you love those movies or don't love those movies, without those movies, the genre as we know it would be quite different, because he broke out of what you're expected to do. The Batman '89 recently, when they did the remaster, Batman '89 was a little bit like Star Trek: The Motion Picture, in the sense that it was sent to the theaters wet. Yeah. They didn't have time to complete the sound mix. There's a lot of stuff they didn't have time to complete. Mm-hmm. I mean, the edit was complete, but it was not a complete film. So when they remastered it, they went back, they actually did the full sound mix. And they actually did, original sound design elements that Burton had planned and never done. And the interesting thing about it was how the movie in its theatrical run at times played stagey because of the sound. And there was a lot of, stock sound. But once the new sound mix was in it, suddenly that staginess just evaporated. It becomes a completely different film. But I have to say, I love Batman Returns. It is, I want to say, God, I hate to say that it's not my favorite Batman film. But it is quite beloved. Because I just think that it's incredibly emotional and interesting, and it's very interested in who he is as a person and how screwed up he is, and how screwed up Catwoman is, and how screwed up everybody is. And it just takes a lot of guts to make a big blockbuster about people having insane identity issues.
Interesting. Well, it's really interesting to hear you talk about the sound mix, because I have to say, I am in the minority. I was never a fan of the 89 Batman. I was very disappointed when it opened. And Isaac and I watched it again recently. And I have to say, I do feel that the 4K with the new sound mix, I liked it a lot more than I've ever liked it. So the new sound mix absolutely helps. But I always felt the movie very claustrophobic because of, the sets, which are very imaginative, but it always felt, soundstage bound. And to me, Batman, what I loved about Batman, because I loved the comics growing up, I felt like what was great about the comics is it always felt real and gritty. And, Tim Burton's world is so a fantasy phantasmagoria that it didn't feel true to what I loved. The same way people get upset about Batman 66, I kind of felt like Tim Burton's Batman movies weren't true to the comics. And I really don't like, I get why people love it. I really don't like Batman Returns. I'm in that camp that feels it's really mean-spirited, and any superhero movie that starts with parents abandoning their baby in a river. I mean, it's not Moses, it's Danny DeVito. And
well, if you had Danny DeVito, I mean,
And I love Christopher Walken, but even that, it's the beginning of like piling on as many villains as we can. And of course, Michelle Pfeiffer is luminous and brilliant and wonderful. All the scenes she's in come to life, but I'm not a fan of the movie. It's so dark and unpleasant, but it is an amazing that a big studio blockbuster, it is truly a vision. It's not like today's big studio blockbusters. It is a Tim Burton film. And for that, I give it a lot of credit, even though it's not my personal taste. Isaac, Tim Burton era, what's your thoughts?
I have thoughts.
You have thoughts. I know you do.
All right. I guess I get to go into them. I'm also in the minority where I don't necessarily like the Tim Burton movies. Don't get me wrong. I respect them. I respect them immensely. Without them, we wouldn't have Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, or anything that we have now. So I absolutely respect those first two movies. But I don't like them. I kind of like Batman 89, but I don't really like Batman Returns. I will never really like a Batman who just kills callously without any remorse or thoughts, unless it's a part of the character and it's brought up. But I just, when he smiles and then after sticking dynamite on a clown and then throwing him into the sewer as he blows up, it's just
Kate and I are like, that's awesome.
I understand why people might think it's awesome, but as someone who's grown up reading stories where Batman will never kill, it's just it's a weird change for me. And of course, I do enjoy Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and I like Michael Keaton as Batman, but I don't really see the need for Vic than as she is in the story. And I especially don't like how one of Joker's main motivations is falling in love with someone. It just doesn't feel like the Joker to me.
You know what we can all agree on, though? Danny Elfman is awesome.
Of course.
Yes.
That's something we all agree on.
Yeah.
And we can probably agree that Joel Schumacher...
I think so. See, we're finding common ground. The internet doesn't have to be a place for hate. We can find common ground. I think we could all agree the Joel Schumacher films are terrible.
Kill the heroes! The hockey team from hell! Cool party!
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
All right, everyone, chill.
George Clooney.
I'm not the marrying kind.
I know you've had your wild night.
Good night. Wild doesn't quite cover it.
Chris O'Donnell.
Come join me. My garden needs tending.
She loves me and not you, and it's driving you crazy.
This is why Superman works alone.
Uma Thurman.
So many people to kill. So little time.
Alicia Silverstone.
And you are?
Batgirl.
That's not awfully PC. What about Bat Person?
Found the Batcave.
She knows who we are.
Guess we'll just have to kill her.
In a Joel Schumacher film. Strength and courage.
Partners.
Honor.
Partners.
And loyalty. Freedom and justice.
Partners.
It all comes together.
We're going to need a bigger cave.
Batman and Robin.
Is that true, Caden?
Yeah.
What's good about them? Let's look for the.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't give in the hate. Well, tell us the good stuff. What's good about him, Isaac?
It tries to do Robin. A lot of movies are scared to do Robin. Now, at least it tried. It did it horribly, but it tried, and that's. I mean, good. Robin should be in more projects. Otherwise, we don't get Nightwing or the rest of the Bat family. And what else? What else is good? They mentioned Superman and Batman and Robin. They say Superman exists in that universe.
They also mentioned Metropolis in Batman Forever.
So
I thought you'd be halfway to Metropolis by now. See, I watch this stuff too much.
I have the headcanon that it's Nicolas Cage's Superman who exists in the Schumacher universe. I think that fits.
That's your headcanon?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, I love it.
But,
what about you, Caden? What's good about the Schumacher films, if anything? Tell us about the hockey team from hell.
I did not have feelings of regret every single time Mr. Freeze made a pun. And I didn't hate what they tried to do with Mr. Freeze. Like, there's an idea there with like him trying to like basically help out his wife who's been frozen pretty much. And it's like they're trying to make a character there, and he could be really interesting. It's just
just forget about that. Watch Hard Ice on Batman the Animated Series, and you'll get that story. But good, but well,
it founded Mr. Freeze. It's funny how the Tim Burton Batman movies basically influenced and created Batman the Animated Series, and then the Schumacher films took so much from the Batman Animated Series.
Yeah, we'll have to watch the Mr. Freeze episode of Batman the Animated Series, Caden. Heart of Ice, which is what really established that, because I think you're right. You kind of, you correctly identified a really great idea that the animated series kind of identified and
I think the late Michael Reeves wrote that. Yep. And Michael Ansara was the voice of Mr. Freeze.
Yes, and he was terrific because Michael Ansara is always terrific. Whether it's Buck Rogers or Star Trek, it doesn't matter.
We need no urging to watch Batman.
No. What I find interesting about the animated series doing all that, though, is that I can tell you, like, I had an opportunity to talk to Bruce Timm at one point, and one of the things we discussed was his very strong feeling that while the Bat family works in the context of the comics, the second that you put it on film, it's silly. And he's not wrong, I think.
That's interesting.
The once you kind of buy into the reality of Batman in a film environment, and it's not campy like the 66 Batman, which, by the way, I feel like I was too harsh on. Once you're kind of there, it's very difficult to make Robin work. Like it would be very difficult even to make Damian work, and he's actually Batman's kid, and he's crazier than Batman is. which is, I think we can all agree our children are crazier than we are, right? Like, because Caden's a maniac.
Damien's an interesting case, but I have to disagree. I think that the Bat family could absolutely work on screen. They just have to try, especially with the fact that Dick Grayson is either when he's with the Teen Titans or when he's on his own, Dick Grayson is my favorite comic book character of all time. And I would love to see a Nightwing solo film. I'll admit, with the origin of Robin, it can be difficult to put on film, but I do think that an established Bat family absolutely can work on screen.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you, it's funny you mentioned Bruce Timm. The best film of this era, to me, is the animated Mask of the Phantasm.
Chucky Saw.
You ain't the Bat. Who are you? What do you want?
Your angel of death awaits.
It's vigilantism at its deadliest. How many times are we gonna let Batman cross the line?
He didn't do it. Batman does not kill. Period. You want him, you get him.
Time to pay for your sins, Mr. Bronski.
You're gonna pay one way or another.
No, please. Give me one more day. I swear I'll get the money.
This time tomorrow, we'll have the money, or I'll have your heart.
Pack a suitcase. We've got to get to the airport now.
Your father, he was the one element that tied these gangsters together.
Daddy doesn't matter anymore.
Alpha 3 to ground. We have him.
Is it true? Is the Batman hitting our people? Wrong.
I've seen the guy. It ain't the Bat.
This isn't a joke. How long till he gets you?
What do you want?
To find out who's iced the old gang.
Don't wait up.
Stay away. This is not your fight.
There are 20 miles of tunnels under this place, and they're all filled with high explosives.
This madness ends now.
From the team that did the animated series, which I just think is super and did no business in the box office, but now is very well regarded. Well, Isaac, are you a fan of Mask of Phantasm?
Absolutely. It is one of, if not, it's my favorite Batman movie was theatrically released. It is amazing. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill were and always will be the greatest Batman and Joker that have ever been put to screen. It created an amazing new villain with Phantasm. Unfortunately, they spoiled who it was with the toy marketing. But it's an amazing movie, and it's great.
Yeah. What about you, Kate? Are you a fan of Mask of Phantasm?
I have never watched it. I want to watch it, and I do not want to spoil it for myself because I've heard it's really good.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Okay. Well, then that brings us to the new era, which is the one that a lot of people, this is when Batman. I mean, again, it was completely re-energized. It lay dormant for a while, and Chris Nolan breathes new life into it. It is different from Joel Schumacher and Tim Burton as they were from each other. And of course, it's the Bat trilogy from Chris Nolan is Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Returns.
Tell us, Mr. Wayne. What do you fear?
How do you know my name?
The world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear. Your parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice.
I cannot let that pass. If you make yourself more than just a man, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Master Wayne,
you coming back for long, sir?
As long as it takes to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
Bruce?
Rachel?
You were gone a long time.
I know.
Things are worse than ever down here. What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
Nomec survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar utility harness, gas-powered magnetic grapple gun.
What's that? Oh, the tumbler? Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that.
I spent a lot of time being scared for you. I heard you were back. But the man I loved, the man who vanished, never came back.
He's here. Who? The Batman.
Gotham must be destroyed.
Gotham isn't beyond saving.
It's over!
Guy dresses up like a bat. Clearly has issues.
Although Dark Knight Rises, right? He returned in Frank Miller's.
He'd already returned. Now he was just
He already returned. He's going to stand up now.
Right, of course, because as we know, the fire. Isaac, give me the fire rises. I can't do Bane.
The fire rises.
Yeah, okay.
But it's
hell. Okay.
Crashing this plane. So, Caden, where do you feel? Now that some time has passed, that the Nolan trilogy ranks in sort of your estimation of the Batman movies, and tell us a little bit about you and your dad seeing those movies together.
I honestly think, for when I watched them, I think I was probably a little bit too young to fully appreciate them.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, and I haven't seen them since, and I really need to rewatch them. But I think the Dark Knight is, in my opinion, it is the best Batman movie. It is not my favorite, though.
Right. Which we already know is 1989's Batman.
No, his favorite is, I think you said Batman Returns is your favorite.
I said Batman Returns, yeah.
Oh, I stand corrected.
There you go.
His favorite is Batman
1992's Batman Returns. Yeah, actually, Caden, I remember you watched Batman Begins, and then for some reason, I don't know why, I walk into our room and I find you, and you are starting The Dark Knight Rises, having not watched The Dark Knight. And I leaped on the remote control like it was a grenade. Like it had just started. I believe in Harvey Dent. I was like, no.
Stop. No, play that phaser order.
You have to watch The Dark Knight first.
Oh, that's funny. Wow. Okay. It's a good thing he stopped you. So of the three, I assume Dark Knight for you, Caden, is your favorite of the three?
Yeah, then very closely Batman Begins, because I also really like Batman Begins.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a big fan of Batman Begins. I've always been a huge fan of Ra's al Ghul. And I have to say, I don't love Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. I was happy he was in the movies, but it was such a great adaptation of Batman. I just felt like it had a little Tim Burton in it because you had parts of Gotham City that were still really stylized and on a soundstage, and then part of it was Chicago. So I love when he just finally gave up on that in Dark Knight, and it was just like, okay, Gotham City is going to be basically Chicago, rather than we're not going to have this Anton First, fantasy city, this nightmare of urban planning. But but I really love Batman Begins. Isaac, you mentioned you saw these two early.
I think I don't think I saw them too young. I saw them old enough to understand them, but I've definitely understood more about them and more and just about the plot and the story as it's gone on. But yeah, I love the first two. I think Batman Begins is amazing. I think it's a really good origin. I like Ra's al Ghul in it, although he's not particularly that type of Ra's al Ghul that I would want to see again. I prefer, of course, David Warner as Ra's al Ghul, and of course, the original Ra's al Ghul created by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. But I did enjoy that interpretation. I liked Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. I hope that we'll have a more accurate Scarecrow in the years to come, whether in the Batman or whatever James Gunn is doing. But I really did enjoy Batman.
He was great Scarecrow in Oppenheimer. Oh, wait, he wasn't Scarecrow in that.
And then, of course, there's The Dark Knight, which I think is the best movie that has Batman in it, but it's not the best Batman movie.
Interesting.
It's the best. Yeah, it's the best movie when it comes to about plot, acting, characters, set design, all of that. But when it comes to a Batman, like a Batman story, then I prefer some other things over it. And then there's The Dark Knight Rises, which I just don't like. I know some people do, but I really don't like it.
Yeah. I got to say, I remember actually seeing that. I remember seeing that 10 minutes in IMAX where they showed the first 10 minutes of Dark Knight and being absolutely blown away. And I think part of maybe the problem for Dark Knight, which I still love, it never tops that first 10 minutes. That first 10 minutes is so brilliant. And I love it. And it's amazing. I'm not a fan of the Two-Face story in that movie. I love the Joker story. And then I just feel it goes on too long. That whole third act I'm not a fan of. But, you know, it's hard. You can't deny that The Dark Knight is a towering achievement in, you know, superhero cinema, you know, and maybe in cinema as well. Although I do think that I've seen a lot of people's top 10 lists, which I think is freaking nuts, but it's a great superhero movie. Ash, what do you think? And this thing that's coming out about maybe seeing it too young. When do you show a kid? When, you know, as much as you might love something, when's it too soon to show you? And I don't mean for morality, like, oh no, there's language, there's nudity, who cares?
No, I know.
But when's it too soon to show a kid something you love and missing the window?
You know, I wrestle that question all the time. And the rule I've always tried to follow is Caden will tell me if he's not ready, and he'll have all kinds of ways of telling me he's not ready. And I've never, you know, tried to kind of push things onto Caden. Although, like, if it's something like there's something is going to be on the big screen for the first time in 30 honking years, then I'm like, hey, kid, let's go do this. But it's not we're going. I mean, Caden, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, but I like to think that I say, hey, I'd love to go see this. Are you interested?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% right.
Interesting. I have a couple of things that go into it. You know, one, obviously my wife's feelings. I got to respect, you know, what Naomi feels. So if she feels a movie's inappropriate, then I'm not going to show it to them unless it's Scarface. But I don't believe in showing, like, you know, it's very important that I respect her feelings first and foremost. Then two is, again, like I said, I don't care about language. I don't care about violence. I don't care about nudity. What I do care about is intensity. Like, I won't show him Taxi Driver yet. You know, I won't show him The Exorcist. Like, there's certain movies, like, I don't feel are appropriate for a 14-year-old, right? You know, and also something with more complex themes, like something like Body Heat. Like, we're going to see Double Indemnity in November, but I wouldn't show him Body Heat, not because of the sex, but because I feel like you know, he needs to be a little older to appreciate the themes of the movie.
Right. And
to follow the story. Yeah.
And the thing about, you know, the Dark Knight in particular is that it is very much an adult movie. Not like, you know, like in the Paul Rubens sense, but it's very much an adult movie. Very adult themes, very adult emotions. It is not screwing around. It has things on its mind. It's just incredibly, like, intelligent. I think Isaac nailed it. It's like, it is easily the best film of the Batman films. And you know, I don't know if I would say that I would consider it top 10 films of all time, but I would at least put it like in the AFI 100 somewhere. And
yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, and we can disagree, but it's like, but I think that it's a great film. And I love the Two-Face story. I think that's the point of the film, and that the Joker is a tremendous character who midwifes a lot of the theme, and he kind of carries a lot of the theme with him, and he kind of brings out who Batman is. And again, the thing that's great about Batman is there's a lot of different colors that you can paint with when you're talking about Batman. And what Christopher Nolan was interested in, particularly in The Dark Knight, was, a Batman story as a crime story, like not as a detective movie so much as he's not following a clue trail, but he is up against, these forces that are inside of Gotham City that are bigger than he is. They are, bigger than the police force that challenge him. And they challenge his resourcefulness, and they challenge, his beliefs and all of those things. And I think, it comes down to little moments in that film, like Lucius Fox saying, I'm going to build this thing for you and we're going to do this, but when it's over, I'm done. I quit.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's stuff like that to me is just incredibly fascinating. I do think Dark Knight Rises is easily the weakest of the three, but I do think that there are things in Dark Knight Rises that are worthy. Like the fight with Bane in the beginning in the sewer is awesome. It's a great fight. And what's really great about it, and maybe I am misremembering this, but it wasn't too long ago that I watched it. Nolan had the brains to not score that fight.
It wasn't scored, no.
And that's just such an amazing choice. I think that it suffered from script problems, honestly. Like, I think it was just kind of all over the place. But there was potentially something fascinating in there. And I think it got hosed up a little bit. Like, I don't know that Nolan quite ever figured out how to recover from the fact that we all, as people who love art, experienced the terrible loss of Heath Ledger, who I think was originally intended to be a huge part of what that movie was going to be. And it never quite pulled itself together. Yeah. But there's really interesting stuff in that movie, whether or not
I agree with that. And, for me also, one of my problems with Batman Returns is that Batman is almost like a guest star in his own movie. And I think that with Dark Knight Rises, that's kind of the case to a certain extent as well. And I like Batman. He's one of the few superheroes, like, I really want to be with him rather than the Rogues Gallery, because usually the Rogues Gallery is more interested in the hero. In this case, I think the hero is, in a way, has a lot of villainous qualities. So I really enjoy being with the hero. But Isaac, what do you think about what we've talked about, and also about what we talked about in terms of introducing you guys to movies in general?
Well, I definitely agree with how you guys have been introducing us to movies. I think there's only been a few times where it hasn't worked out. So I think whatever you guys are doing, it's working. And I agree with what you're saying. I think that's the problem with the Burton and Schumacher movies, is that it focuses too much on the villains and not as much on Batman. Joel Schumacher was trying to do that with Batman Forever, but that's not ended up what happening, and there was a lot of deleted stuff from there. And The Dark Knight Rises, I think, also does suffer from that problem. I think what makes it even worse is I just don't like Bane in that movie. I can't understand him, and he's not Bane. He is just he's not Bane. I mean, he's better than whatever they did in Batman and Robin, but it doesn't feel like Bane. The Bane that I prefer the most is from Batman Arkham Origins, not Arkham Asylum and City. I don't think he was done well in that, but in Origins, like, he feels like Bane. I mean, he's still smart like he is in Dark Knight Rises, but he felt more like the Bane from Nightfall and from the comics. And I also think that Bane just didn't he wasn't important towards the third act. The Talia al Ghul reveal was done horribly, and I just don't think that she needed to be in that story.
No,
and I don't. And I just think that there was no real place for Talia, and if there was a place for Talia, it should have been a bigger focus of the movie.
Totally, and she's dreadfully miscast as Talia too.
Yeah.
So overall, though, this consensus, don't you think, Kate, triumphant? This is a great film trilogy. Some really spectacular Batman action and just terrific overall.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Yeah.
Probably the most consistent series of Batman films, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely agree.
And then there was a nice little break for a while. There's that wonderful documentary Bat Kid, which if people haven't seen it, they should check it out. Right, Isaac?
It is amazing. It's a tearjerker, but it's one of the best Batman films there is.
Yeah, what's it about?
Basically, it's a documentary about a kid who tragically was diagnosed with cancer, and they went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he wished that he could be Batman for a day. And a ton of people came together to truly make a spectacular event for him, for his wish, and allow him to be Batman for a day. And luckily he recovered, and I think he's now around me or Caden's age. I'm not sure.
How did they arrange for him to hunt down a serial killer inside of one day?
Well, they called you and you were available, and he's Batman. Exactly. He's a Batman.
Give him like the billions of dollars as well.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
No, but it's a great documentary, and I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. It's on. I think it's on Max, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah. It's called Bat Kid Begins.
Bat Kid Begins. He hasn't returned yet, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but,
hasn't returned or rised yet.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't forever either.
But if that means the cancer hasn't returned, let it be a one shot. We don't need any sequels. So that's good. But speaking of things that'll make you sick, we're about to get to the Zack Snyder films. Where are you? Come on. Look, obviously before we get to Matt Reeves' film.
Hey, what about Lego Batman? We got to do that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well,
talk about Lego Batman.
After Snyder.
Okay,
really
so the Snyder films, Batman versus Superman.
Let the record show that this committee holds him responsible.
That's how it starts. The fever. The rage that turns good men cruel.
This Bat vigilante is like a one-man reign of terror.
You don't get to decide what the right thing is. Nobody cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman.
This means something. It's all some people have. It's all that gives them hope. People hate what they don't understand. Be their hero, Clark. Be their angel. Be their monument. Be anything they need you to be. Or be none of it. You don't owe this world a thing. You never did.
Do you know the oldest lie in America, Senator? The devils don't come from hell beneath us. They come from the sky.
20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race.
And we have to destroy it.
black and blue. God versus man. Day versus night. The red capes are coming. The red capes are coming.
What, it didn't have a colon? Yeah, that's where the shit comes out. No, Batman versus Superman. What was it, colon?
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Thank you very much. So I'm not going from notes. I'm just going.
I don't want to remember it. Okay,
yeah.
I have to.
And then there are the two versions of Justice League. So
and Suicide Squad.
And Suicide Squad. So how much is the Snyder films? Where are you in terms of your appreciation of these films and the way it portrayed Batman, or is this sort of off your radar? What it mean to you, Caden, these films, and how do you feel it dealt with Batman?
I don't think any of the films did Batman very well. Even though I'd say was it 2022 when they released the Snyder Cut?
2021. 2021.
Okay. Yeah. Even though that is a really good film, I just don't think Batman's great in it. And I don't think he's worse in the 2016 version of Justice League. He feels like a Marvel character in that one. But like, he's still just like not good in Dawn of Justice and in the Snyder Cut, in my opinion.
Isaac, I know you're not a fan of these films, but
okay.
Again, there are a lot of people that do like these films. It's like, what works for you? Isaac, did we lose you?
I think Ben Affleck's good in it. If he had a good script, I think he'd be good in the role. It's another thing where people didn't understand the casting, and I do kind of like the costume. They got the coloring right. I think it's kind of a little over designed, and I don't like the large bat, although it's accurate to Dark Knight Returns. But
right,
I mean that's really all I can say. I know this is a positive podcast, but I hate the Snyder Batman. I hate it with a passion. It doesn't
That's abundantly clear.
I hate it.
We get it.
I'm done.
We get it. Ashley, both the kids don't seem particularly fond of this era of Batman. Are you?
So I have very mixed feelings. I think that first of all, and it's interesting how it kept happening, but the certainly the theatrical of Batman v Superman is a disaster, and the Joss Whedon Justice League is a disaster, and it's not even an interesting disaster. That said, the Ultimate Edition, I guess, of Batman v Superman kind of capitalizes on something that I always thought was interesting at the core of that movie, which is whenever that movie is a Batman film about Superman, it's really good. When it's a Superman film, doesn't work so hot. The real issue with it, I think, ultimately is probably how Lex Luthor fits into all of it, and how Doomsday fits into all of it. And at the end,
wait, that was Lex Luthor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, look, he is as accurate to and as interesting representation of Luthor as we understand him from the comic books as Gene Hackman is. Okay, it's like they have as much relationship to that character as each other, but it's irrelevant, because my point is that I don't like that particular interpretation. I don't think it helps anything. And I don't think that Doomsday helps anything, because Batman doesn't have anything to do at the end of that film.
Yeah, I'd like adding on to that. I think the Ultimate Edition, or whatever it's called, is I think it's decent, when it is about Batman, which is mainly in that first half. But then it suddenly becomes Lex Luthor is doing things, and Batman and superhero are here too, I guess. And no, Superman died. Spoilers.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. Spoiler alert. Yeah. So
I'll be
it doesn't
back.
really quite collect and work, but I don't know. And in the Snyder cut of Justice League, look, like it, don't like it, love it, hate it. It's a hell of an interesting experiment. Number one, that first of all, that it even happened. Secondly, the story about like why it happened the way that it happened. And I think that there's a lot going on in that film that's really interesting. And I think that, a lot of how it's perceived is colored either positively or negatively by the existence of the Joss Whedon film. And by a lot of things that exist outside of the context of what Snyder is doing, which is, look, what he does really well is he is really great with the mise en scène. Right. He is really great at kind of at setting up a shot and just creating like really beautiful pictures.
Yep.
But what that relies on, his storytelling, if you look at kind of what's happened with his films. So Watchmen, okay, his Watchmen theatrical cut wasn't really great. It was fine. Honestly, I think that the third act, frankly, fixes what's wrong with the issue 12 of Watchmen. Which I have like a billion freaking copies of. But the extended version of that, which includes like the animated Tales of the Black Freighter, like when it scopes out, suddenly it becomes really interesting. And I think that the same is true of his Justice League film. And what it tells me is the man should not be making movies. He should be making TV. It's like, because that's essentially like what he did. Like his Justice League is that. But I'm like, I hear, what Caden and Isaac are saying about Batman. There is something like and I didn't expect to, but I quite love Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he works. He's not my favorite, but he's good, right? He's like, there's something that he's doing that's really interesting. Like, and even, going back to that,
he's not Sean Connery, but he doesn't embarrass himself.
I don't hate Ben Affleck as Batman. I just don't really like the way the character is written.
Yeah, exactly. The writing and the lighting are the biggest problems with those films.
Yeah,
it's like that rhymes.
Ben Affleck you believe him as Bruce Wayne, and you believe him as a Bruce Wayne who is basically a suit that Batman is wearing.
Yeah, I think he's like. He's a really good Bruce Wayne, honestly. I think that's the strongest part of his Batman is his Bruce Wayne.
I have to say, Isaac mentioned Lex Luthor, and I was saying how I love Gene Hackman, despite the fact that he's not, true to the. And then Isaac says, "Hold on," and he said, "I want you to watch something," and he puts on Clancy Brown on Superman the Animated Series. And I'm like, oh my God, he's so great.
Yeah, Clancy Brown is amazing.
So great as Lex Luthor.
He's the best Lex Luthor.
And Batman is great in all those. In the Superman, the animated series, where he's dating Lois Lane, and Justice League. And I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and Batman Beyond is just great. It's such a shame they didn't make that Batman Beyond movie that came so close to happening. Tantalizingly close.
I mean, the Batman Beyond series is amazing. It's Spider-Man, but in a Batman world mixed with Blade Runner in an Iron Man suit. So it's perfect. Kevin Conroy is back as an old Bruce Wayne. And the film tie-in is one of the best Batman films ever made.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys aren't overly enamored with the Snyder stuff, but I think something we could all agree on is how wonderful and how surprising the Lego Batman movie was, wasn't it, Caden?
Ooh. Yeah, it still really surprises me how really good that movie is. It's like that is probably the second best Lego movie outside of the Lego movie.
I would disagree. I think Lego Batman movie is the best Lego movie. And it's not just one of the best Lego movies. It's one of the best Batman movies in general. it gets the character perfectly, and it does an amazing story with the Bat family and Robin and Alfred and Batgirl. And I just think it's amazing. And it's one of the few good multiversal stories.
Yes, no parents.
And how great is Will Arnett?
He's amazing. He does it perfectly.
Yeah, he really does. As Joe Batman. Oh, Joe Bluth. Okay, so that brings us. Go ahead.
May I bring up the fact that, like, I feel like the reason that film works well is because, like, it also takes advantage of the fact that you are in a Lego world, like, which is like I think the more the Lego films do that, the better they are usually. I know we're not talking about the Lego films in general, but like
we'll get there.
When they do that, like the film just becomes much more creative and pleasing to look at as well.
Yeah. Well, everything was truly awesome about that movie. And another movie that I think a lot of us really liked. And I mean, it started, I remember when Isaac and I saw the trailer for the Batman, and we're like, if Matt Reeves screws this up, we're going to be really upset. And we were not upset. And of course, that's last year's The Batman.
From your secret friend. Underneath the bridge. Who? Topper sprung a leak, and the animals I've trapped. Haven't a clue. All become my pet. Let's play a game. Just me and you. Any of this mean anything to you?
You're becoming quite a celebrity. Why is he writing to you?
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Whoa! This guy's crazy!
You're part of this too. How am I part of it? You'll see.
Which debuted in theaters early 2022. Caden, thank you, Isaac. Where does the Batman go on your list of best and worst Batman movies?
So the Batman's an interesting case because the theater that we saw it at, for the one time that we saw it, was really bad. So that ruined a lot of the experience, and it put me in a pretty bad mood. So I
not a bat mood, a bad mood.
I'm not a bat mood. I was not in a bat mood. But like, I thought it was good. I just didn't really see like what everyone else saw with it being like super excellent. I think it works really well as a detective story. But sometimes it doesn't really feel like a Batman film. And also I think that that the Bruce Wayne part of Batman is also just done not great, in my opinion.
Okay, well, Isaac, where are you on that? I think you felt a little differently, but then you didn't have a miserable experience seeing it like they did. Or when I went with my dad to see The Boys from Brazil, and the ceiling was leaking and the rain was coming in on us, but I didn't want to leave.
Well, I haven't seen Boys in Brazil, but I don't think I will now. But with the Batman, I it's my favorite live action Batman movie. I think it's amazing. I think it gets the character really well, and it just kind of puts you in that world. I don't really remember the theater experience, but I remember it being really good. And to counter with what you're saying about the Bruce Wayne part, I don't think that the Bruce Wayne part was done bad. I don't think it's the best Bruce Wayne we've ever gotten, but I think that was the point. I think a big part of the movie was that he doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne, and it's a part of him to grow. And I think in the sequel, we'll see him being a lot more like the billionaire playboy philanthropist that Bruce Wayne is traditionally known as.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that in a way. I think that's definitely something that they could expand on in the sequels, and that would probably work really well. But I think like in that film, I think there was some attempt to like focus on the Bruce Wayne part of him, and it just didn't work for me, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you guys, this is a really interesting look at the Batman saga. And obviously this podcast is named after the great Robert Evans, or based on his book, The Kid Stays in the Picture, where the kid stays in the podcast. And one of a million great quotes that he had was, I get a lot from all young people. I make movies for young people. If I made movies for people my age, no one would see them. I hang with young people all the time. So I think Ashley and I have the benefit of your insights and your critique and your knowledge, and we're very lucky. And I think hopefully the audience will benefit as well from your bat tease. No, that's not a word. From your okay, I'll have to come.
Ex-bat tease.
Ex-bat tease. Okay, I like it. Okay, maybe
a long way around the horn, but we got there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I got to say, it's always a pleasure hearing your perspective on the movies we loved, the movies we love, and the movies we will see again. So to sum up, I'd love to know, Caden, favorite Batman movie and least favorite.
Favorite Batman movie, Batman Returns, and least favorite Batman movie would probably be Batman and Robin.
Okay. Isaac?
My favorite Batman movie is a tie between Mask of the Phantasm and Return of the Joker. And my least favorite Batman movie is Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Wow. Interesting, guys. Well, as always, it's such a delight for us to see you guys following in our footsteps with a passion for movies. And I think one thing that Ashley and I both say is, doesn't matter if you feel the same way about the movies. We just want you to have the experience of seeing them and deciding for yourself. And hopefully the people who are listening, it'll be the same with them and their families. You know, give them a chance to experience the stuff that you love, but don't necessarily expect them to feel the same way. But I think we have every week we do the show. There's a lot to learn from you guys, and I thank you. And I'm so glad to be a part of it, and so lucky to have the kids stay in the podcast. Right, Ashley?
Oh, always. You know, and as long as they say exactly like what we tell them to say and agree with us in all ways.
As long as they stay in the podcast.
Oh, did I miss the point of this? Oh, no.
What was the line in The Manchurian Candidate?
There were many.
No, the famous line in Manchurian Candidate. It was, God, what was it? He says, Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful man I've ever known in my life. And they repeat it over and over in a monotone expression. So it's like, yes, we don't want you to parrot exactly the way we feel, but Raymond Shaw was the most wonderful, perfect person. So, and that's a movie that I think I can't speak for Caden, but I know Isaac will love The Manchurian Candidate. It's politics, it's mystery. It has a great cast. It's a Cold War classic, and it has the assassination of a major political figure at its core. And given how you felt about JFK, I have a feeling you will love The Manchurian Candidate.
Well, I'll add that to the list.
Add that to the list. Ashley, you got a movie you want to recommend to Caden, and we'll check back in with him to see what he thinks?
Oh my God. I was completely unprepared for that question. I always have movies that I want to recommend to Caden. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to throw out to Caden because
all 7 of the Sharknado movies.
Yes. Because I know how much you love the Denis Villeneuve Dune film, and you're looking forward to Dune 2 Electric Boogaloo. I think that you should check out David Lynch's Dune. I think that should be your homework.
Remember the tooth. So the kids are like, why are we doing this podcast? We're going to get homework. But Isaac has to watch Manchurian Candidate. Caden has to watch Dune 1984. Oh, and I forgot to tell you.
There's
Robert Evans had another great quote, which I think really is important to keep in mind when we sit here and debate and disagree. Fighting is healthy. I can't do it with like my septum deviated the way he in that great, deep, dark Robert Evans coke-addled voice. If everyone has too much reverence for each other or for the material, results are invariably underwhelming. It's a reverence that makes things sizzle. It's a reverence that gives you the shot at touching magic. And hopefully you feel we touched a little magic this week, and we'll be back to touch some more magic next week here on the Kids Stay in the podcast. So on behalf of Caden Miller, Isaac Altman, Ashley Edward Miller, and myself, Mark A. Altman, we need an outro.
It's not going to be keep on trekking.
No, we need like a little, like something pithy to say. Like,
keep on kidding. No.
Keep on kidding. Gloriously, of course. Just kidding. Okay. Look, keep staying in the podcast. We'll work on it, and we'll come back to you with a new one next week. Okay. So we'll see you next week here on the Kids Stay in the podcast. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you in 2 weeks.